Uh, okay, let's start. Today we'll start with part one, which is section one, the moment and the need. Courage. Courage is impossible without vulnerability, and that it should be considered a skill, not a personality trait. Courage is also incredibly contagious, as is fear, as we can see in the world, as is scarcity. And so courage is contagious, and we can teach it, we can learn it, we can measure it. And we have to create cultures where being armored all the time is not rewarded behavior. Okay, so
Can I
next, the
ask
physics of
slow a bit,
yes.
Hisa? Can you go back to previous slide? Is it everyone know what is contagious? Taibo,
Yeah, no.
no. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If no one say don't know, then okay, go on. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So the physics of vulnerability is actually quite simple. Okay, if we are brave enough, often enough, we will fail. Daring is not saying I'm willing to risk failure, but daring is saying that I know I will eventually fail and I'm still all in. So according to Brand Brown, she said, I've never met a brave person who hasn't known disappointment, failure, even heartbreak. That means for every person who claim that is brave, they actually know what is failure, and but they're still in. Okay, as I understand from this chapter, vulnerability is the birthplace of negative emotions like fear, guilt, and shame. However, it's also the origins of feelings like joy, belongings, and love. This may not seem vulnerable at first, but you can't feel emotions like joy without learning into your experience, especially the difficult ones. And giving yourself freely and openly. A guarded person cannot feel joyful. To be seen, to feel, or to love are all always risks. Many live their lives too afraid to ever know love. That's the risk you take by not being vulnerable. So, what's the definitions of vulnerability? It's the emotions that we experience during the times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure first emerge in our works, place, and where any situations that you feel uh, vulnerable. So, including in this leadership, actually, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. Okay, there are some answer author gotten from the feedback of people when asking them what is vulnerability. So the answer is first date after my divorce, talking about race with my team, trying to get pregnant after my second miscarriage, starting my own business, watching my child leave for college, apologizing to a colleague about how I spoke to him or her in a meeting, sending my son to orchestra practice, knowing how badly he wants to make first chair and knowing there's really a good chance he would not make the orchestra at all. Waiting for the doctors to call back, giving feedback, getting fired, firing someone. Okay, all these are the examples of vulnerability. So, guys, I want to ask you a question. Do you still remember your first day to school? Do you still remember how you feel when your first day to school? I'm sure that day, the first day you went to school, you barely know anyone, right? All you see were new faces, and all the voice you hear was so strange. Let's imagine you walk to the registration counter to report your attendance, and yes, Iwan, very excited and scared. Yes, scared. A lady who looked, if a lady who looked so fierce or friendly, whatever, welcome you to the school and show you the way to your classroom, then she wish you good luck and you walk away. Your heart beat even faster and feel even more strange when you're walking alone to the classroom. Then you knock the door. Knock, knock. Everyone stare at you. Your heart rate speed like a magnitude 9.5 earthquake. Your palms grow sweaty and you think, why in the world did I ever think I could do this? These shaky feelings is vulnerability, and it makes you want to turn around and go home, where you can escape the potential judgments of others and your own fears of the unfamiliarity. But, but by pushing through all these steps, you are doing something wise and instructive. None of this showing that vulnerability is weakness nor experience. On the contrary, we feel anxious and uncertain when we experience vulnerability, and it triggered us to be self-protect. In fact, vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of meaningful humans' experience. It's much easier to cause pain than it is to feel pain. People who don't allow themselves to be vulnerable take out their pain on others. Think of the stereotypical class bully. His siblings or parents abuse him at home, so he takes it out on his classmate. He thought that being vulnerable is a weakness and that hurting others makes him strong, but really it's the opposite. Everyone's experienced pain. The courageous among us are open about their pain. They share it by talking about it, not by inflicting it on others. It may seem obvious, but you can't be vulnerable by yourself. Being vulnerable requires opening yourself up to others. Connections, love, and belongings requires opening yourself up to others. In the absence of the connections, love, and belongings, there's always suffering. Let me see the chat. Okay. So in this chapter, Brené Brown talked about how we handle criticism. Okay, we all know that thoughtful feedback shared with us from a place of compassion help us to grow, even if this isn't always easy to hear. But there are some people who seem to spend much of their life hurling judgment and critical advice at others with very little considerations and compassions behind it. Hurtful words can come from everywhere. Colleagues, teachers, mother-in-law, siblings, parents, employers, friends, and etc. etc. For many of us, it's easy to internalize their criticism. Taking it to heart, we can start believing that there must be something wrong with us. So we start to questioning our own sense of self. We might respond with defensiveness and aggressions, lashing out and fighting criticism with criticism, shame with shame, or we could feel powerless and try to pat the hurt down and ignore it, staying quiet and continue to allow ourselves to be spoken about in this way, perhaps only passive aggressiveness complaining behind their back. So Brahma said, don't grab hurtful comments and pull them close to you by rereading them and ruminating on them. Don't play with them by rehearsing your badass comeback. What Brown say here is that we shouldn't take all the negative comments to ourselves. We should filter it. What is good to you, what you should hear, and what you should not listen. You should not listen, because feedback is cheap and criticism is so cheap. You can get it from everywhere and anywhere. So we can forget about negative comments, but focus on those that really can let you grow. So this is what Brown asked us to do. This is my presentation for today, but do you have anything to add, sir?
Just a thought, what could be some of the root cause of whether a person can rumble with vulnerability? Why some people can handle vulnerability better than others? what would enable someone to be able to be more vulnerable while others cannot?
Pride.
List it all down.
Mm.
When you say pride, would you like to explain? What do you mean by pride?
Because when the person thinks that perceived vulnerability, it means very no face, then they will not be practice this. So is
Okay.
that because of the pride, or they care about how other people see him or her?
Why would being vulnerable affect how other people see him or her as a? How does pride affect a person from being vulnerable, thinking that it will affect how other people see?
Yvonne put in the chat, they associate vulnerability as failure.
Okay. Okay. I want you to try to go to the root. That's why I'm asking root cause.
Poor self-esteem.
Okay. Would you like to explain how poor self-esteem can lead to a person avoiding vulnerability?
I think a person who has this poor self-esteem, they may not even want to express their feelings, no matter good or bad.
What caused that? I want to ask what caused that. I don't want you to tell me what happened. I want you to try to explain the root cause. I think the most root cause is how we grow up. Okay, if we cry, we kena scold. Like if we cry, we kena scold by parents and by teachers. Okay, go on. Okay, what happened when we cry, kena scold?
So when the act of scolding, just associate it as something bad. So we grow up also thinking that being vulnerable means bad.
Okay. Good. Okay. Associate vulnerability to failure. Chen Wei say, I think overthinking. Chen Wei, would you like to explain?
It's like they think too much. So it's like, what if I do this, will become like this? What if I do that, then will become like this? They think a lot lah, instead of, just do. Maybe they see movie too much also possible lah. Like see movie too much, then also maybe because the life experience possible causes the person to like, when I want to, he will think a lot lah. This is what I thought lah.
Okay, what does this say about the person's thinking?
Lack of confidence possible can or
I
maybe
don't know, I'm asking you.
no lah, I mean possible lah. The person lack of confidence also because they see through a lot of, maybe too negative I think can say like this lah. The thinking maybe too negative Don't know can or not this one too broad
Okay.
or not.
Okay. That's why I want you to try to think why it is like that. Okay, if you have problem with vulnerability, how are you going to solve it if you are not able to identify the root cause? I don't want you to think about how to solve the behavior. Okay, so I'm supposed to be vulnerable, right? And you can end up fake vulnerability because, like this chapter say, it's fake vulnerability. I'm being vulnerable because I have to. Okay, so you end up, if you have read the myth 6, the myth 6 about wrong thinking, you'll be able to recognize the problem with certain vulnerability. You can end up having fake vulnerability. That's right. That's why I'm challenging the question. I'm challenging the thought. What is the root cause? I'm trying to challenge you to think, what is the root cause? Why is it so difficult for a person to be vulnerable? And if we read the book, we all know that if you want to be a good leader, we need to be able to handle vulnerability. So how are you going to handle vulnerability if you're not able to identify the root cause, especially our own root cause, or even somebody else's root cause of why the person cannot handle vulnerability? Pei Wen say they living their life trying to please others, and okay, that is the behavior. You end up externally, you end up wanting to please others, but what is happening inside that make the person want to please others and wanting to get acceptance? Yeah. So when you want to get acceptance, you won't expose. You are only exposing the part that please others. You're not exposing the part that is not pleasing to others. That's what you're saying, Pei Wen, right? But why?
Or maybe is it because we don't want to feel uncomfortable, the feeling of insecurity like that.
But why the feeling of insecurity?
Mm. Mm. Confident.
I think they internalize mind of others. I think they internalize mind of others and they are not aware of themselves. Very good, Yvonne. Would you like to elaborate? Aware of themselves what? Aware of what?
I think too often times they think about what others think. They didn't really, how to say, reflect on themselves, whether do some self-reflection, so they are not also aware of themselves.
Very good. Okay, I think the beginning of this chapter got say. Okay, I think this is very good. Aware of themselves. Simply meaning, if I were to paraphrase it, can you answer the question, who am I? How well can you answer the question, who am I? What am I? What am I about? Who am I about? Can you understand what I'm saying? Can you see how this question or the inability to answer this question will affect your ability to be vulnerable? Possible also most of them not clear on their purpose or maybe the value of their life causes them to no confidence to speak up the truth. Your issue there is a little bit, if you're not clear about yourself, are you clear about what is truth? Even what is truth about yourself? Is it possible for you not to if you do not know yourself, know who you are about, what you are about, then is it possible for you to be truthful? And it's possible for you to be vulnerable? Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you? I hope. I wonder if you all can see why this is important.
So can I put it in another way? It means like, let's say an example lah. If I know who I am and I'm very clear about what I do and my stand, then it's not very difficult to get influenced by other and not very challenging to handle criticism. Am I right?
No,
No.
I'm not talking about to that level.
Which level?
You see, you are already saying that you know yourself fully. I'm not talking about even knowing yourself fully. Are you aware of yourself? I think the key word is the word that Yvonne used, the awareness of self.
So you have
And the
better
awareness of
example.
self.
Can you give example?
How do I say? I'm not thinking about example. I'm thinking about the dynamics inside. You see, that's why I think back about AAACARD. Awake, aware, admit. Or awake, aware, accept. Or awake, aware, acknowledge, accept. If I'm not awake or aware and am able to acknowledge or accept who I am and what I am now, do you think I would dare to open up and take the risk of insecurity? It doesn't mean that I don't listen to other people. It doesn't mean that. That's why there's a need for openness to feedback, which is what Yee Saa have also summarized. The openness to feedback is also very important. The openness to feedback means what? We don't know fully ourselves. That means there's still blind spot. We know ourselves, but yet we don't know ourselves, right? That's why we need feedback, right? That's why the book talk about this square squat, right? What is square squat? Square squat basically means somebody who is very truthful to you, who dare to be square with you, who dare to be honest with you. Now, if they dare to be honest with you, that means they may tell you something that you may not know about yourself, or you may find it difficult. That's why it's vulnerable. That's why it is a risk. That's why there's a risk of pain. That's why there's a risk of a little bit risk of confrontation or feedback that is not very that can be hurting. That's why I keep going back to thinking. You see, if you read this chapter, that's why when I read through, my first question is this: how to be sure that I am authentically vulnerable and not fake vulnerable? You want to say aware and accept our flaws is important to be vulnerable. Exactly. Good. People will always talk whether it is for good or just empty criticism. Correct. To really embrace vulnerability, we really need strong self-awareness. Exactly. And acceptance that we are human, very good, and are able to grow. I think the key word there is human. There are three keywords that I really love, which now finally brought out, which after I think through this whole chapter, about vulnerability, and then at the end of the chapter it says fake vulnerability, and I'm asking the question, how do I ensure that I am authentic vulnerable and not fake vulnerable? And that's why I came up with this thought, and then that's why I throw the question. And I think these 3 keywords very important. Recognize our humanness, recognize who we are, that we are not perfect, that we have potential, but we have weakness and limitation. That's what human is. Being human, right? Being human always has the positive side, which is I have potential, but also the negative side, I have limitation. Also recognizing that I have strength, I have weakness. And yet with these 2, I'm able to accept. So I don't see myself extremely bad about myself, which is poor self-esteem. Poor self-esteem is when I see my limitation more than my strength. Ego is when I see my strength and ignore my weakness. So there's this awareness, the balanced awareness. And only in the balanced awareness, then I can have, I think that I can possibly have what is called authentic vulnerability. In order to know, who is this Yee Saa 190183?
It's me, Seah Yee Saa.
Huh? Oh, Yee Saa, your okay. The wonder is Yee Saa. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know you're using this name inside. Okay. In order to know ourselves first, we need to be honest to ourselves. Yeah, correct. In other words, we need to be vulnerable to ourselves also. Or we need to be open with ourselves. We need to open up to ourselves, correct? And to know our weakness and strength, ugly and beautiful, dark and bright side, that requires courage to be honest, then we could be vulnerable. Now, okay, this issue, I don't know, I throw out with you. Can you be honest with yourself and accept yourself if you have not experienced other people accepting you? Which one comes first? You need other people to accept you first before you can accept yourself, or you need to accept yourself first before other people can accept you? These are deeper questions than the book. I know the book talk about vulnerability, but I want to go a bit deeper because I want to handle the root cause, which is not in the book, which is why I want to stir up this. Because in this chapter, it talks about fake vulnerability. So I don't want to end up, you are focusing on behavior. Fake vulnerability is focused on behavior and you are not handling the root mindset. That's why I want to, that's why just now you all talk about awareness, thinking, your how you think about yourself, how you understand yourself. These are all mindset issues. Your mindset about yourself. Most of the time I will forget I'm a human being. Yeah, it has a problem. Once you forget you are a human being, right? You will have a problem. And generally, when you forget you are a human being, you think you are superhuman, right? That means you think you are more capable than not. And when you think you're more capable than not, then you will have less tolerance with your own weakness. And when you have less tolerance with your own weakness, and when you have a weakness, what will you do? You become less vulnerable because you dare not show, because you think you are super. So you don't want to show because you want to maintain the image of being a superhuman. Correct? We accept ourselves first, my opinion. Well, good question. I think it has to go both ways. I really don't know. In my own personal experience, for me, is when my mentor accepted me and showed me. To me, is you see, if I think through, my own personal experience, before I met my mentor, right? My whole interaction with people is armored. What I call armored, which is what the book says. Armored lah. Okay, I show what I want to be and what I need to be. I feel that this is what I need to be in order to be a somebody. Right, and so I in order to be a somebody and I need to be like that, then I have to keep telling myself I must be like that. I am like that. Positive thinking, what I call positive thinking. But until people show me that, hey, it's okay to be weak. It doesn't. I am valuable even though I have my weakness. That's my first experience. That means my mindset have to change. My understanding of what I am to be human, what is my value as a human, that as a human, I don't have to be superhuman, or neither am I useless. As a human, I have a balance of potential and limitation. And it does not change my value, that I have value. That I eventually can see the value of both my strength and weakness. Which is why in this book also say about one thing, let me read now, let me try to find that verse, which I think I think really speaks up. Let me see if I can find it. Because I actually highlight it. Okay. The people on your list should be people who love you not despite your vulnerability and imperfection, but because of your vulnerability and imperfection. I don't know whether you read this. When you read this, wow, I struggle with this, man. This is on page 31. Just second last paragraph before the 6 myths of vulnerability. I don't know if you have the book with you. The second last paragraph before the 6 myths of vulnerability, there's a short paragraph. If you need a rubrics of choosing the people, this is about the square squad. So how do you find the square squad? To find the square squad is to find people who are able to love you. But then love you what? There are two ways of loving you. Loving you despite your vulnerability and imperfection, that means what? They don't value. They see your vulnerability and your imperfection as not good. That's why, okay, never mind. They overlook it. They close one eye about your vulnerability and imperfection. That's what it means. But he said no. No, he's loving you not because he closed one eye. He's loving you because he sees you and loves you as a whole with the vulnerability and imperfection. That means the person accepts you as fully human with the vulnerability and imperfection, and seeing you as unique in that sense. In a way, they are not trying to change you. They are trying to improve you, that's all. But they're not trying to change you. They're not trying to remove your vulnerability or imperfection. Because that's part of you. That means they accept your vulnerability and imperfection as a part of you, as who you are. I don't know if I'm making sense. That is what loving yourself also requires. That means if you want other people to love you with your vulnerability and imperfection, that means you also must love yourself with your vulnerability and imperfection. Not trying to close one eye and ignore or don't want to see. Willful blindness towards your own vulnerability and imperfection. only see the good side. No, you're supposed to see the whole. That's why this is very important. Then you can have real vulnerability and not fake vulnerability. I don't know whether I'm making sense or not, huh? And it's, to me, the more I think about it, actually it's eventually you being able to recognize the beauty of yourself as a human, as a unique human, a human yet unique, because all humans are human, and yet every one of us as a human are designed uniquely, slightly different in the way we are made up, in our personality, in our gift, in our talent, in every aspect. We are different. We are different color. What I mean by color is, I'm talking about intrinsic color. I'm not talking about extrinsic color. Even though skin color may be different, but yet internally the personality color, the character color, I don't know, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Hello, what's so silent already?
Deep thought,
We
deep
laugh.
thought.
Just tell me whether you understand what I'm trying to explain. It's a recognition of our humanness. Because it's important. If I recognize that I'm created as a human, and being a human have potential, and yet I am limited. I am not created to be all powerful or superpower. I'm not. I have power. But the balance between power and limitation, this is very crucial. And oftentimes we are brainwashed. Again, this is called mindset. Do you realize that we are brainwashed to put down limitation and put down weakness or limitation? I won't call it weakness. I call it limitation. Why I say limitation? Because you can grow one. Okay? Yeah. How to remind ourselves that we are human? A good question. So irony that we need to remind ourselves as a human. Okay. You see, okay, this is getting a bit more philosophical. This is how I think. That's why I run MOL. What is the key of MOL? You see, if we go back to the basis of our classes, our lesson, as we think, so we are. Remember we say that, right? This is one of the core lesson that we have for YMAT. As we think, so we are. Lesson, the first study. If you want to join YMAT, I remember saying that if you want to join YMAT, the first class you must attend, as we think, so we are. Second class or attitude training, right? In the attitude training, remember, we have two books. One is the John C. Maxwell attitude book, and the other one is As We Think, So We Are. And then the second training we want to go into, which is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then we go into all the book study. Now, all this, the As We Think, So We Are, as well as John C. Maxwell, Stephen Covey's book on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it keeps saying this: paradigm or mindset. The root of our effectiveness is our mindset or our paradigm. My question becomes this: what is your mindset or paradigm or understanding about what is a human? What is your picture of a human? What is your understanding of a human? What is your definition of a human? How do you define a human? How do you understand? Because we are all human. Because when we understand what is a human, then we understand who am I? What am I? And out there, there are a lot of definitions of what a human is. Evolution says human is what? Nothing but the product of, right, survival of the fittest. Sorry, no, I don't agree. Because once you do that, right, then really our meaning and purpose and our value is measured only in context of the atom's explosion. No. The other one is we are created by God in the image of God. Now that makes more sense. That's why we all have this intrinsic need to be valued, because we are designed in an image. Meaning what? If we are designed to reflect something, then we have value. We are designed with a purpose, then we have value. Because value attached with it, right, must be valuable to somebody. You understand what I'm saying? Think about it. Money, our Malaysian ringgit, is valuable to the user. Otherwise, the ringgit in itself is only a piece of paper with a wonderful print, a design of a printing. But to the user, to the Malaysian economy, is valuable. So it has to be defined in context. So what is the value of a human being? Defined in context of the design, which is put there by the creator or the designer. And that's why, to me, you need to recognize as a human by definition of the designer. Then it's not, if otherwise we have a problem. How are you going to find the security of your sense of value in being a human? Value of money doesn't come by itself, of itself. The value of the money is in context of the user. It's only because of the user then the money has value. It's only in context of the user your computer has value. It's only in context of the user that your handphone has value. In everything in life, only in context of the user. That's where the value is. Value lies with the owner. And so, when Yvonne, your question, how to remind ourselves that we are human? So irony that we need to remind ourselves as human is because we need to go back to the blueprint, to the designer's definition. That's what we need to be reminded. Because out there, there's also a lot of fake definition of what a human is. There are a lot of people telling you what you should be, what you should be. So in other words, if at the end of the day, your vulnerability is only an expression of your understanding of your humanness. So if you think you are more than like that, then you will behave more than like that. Okay, take for example, I give an example. Okay, I know this will be tough, but this is the latest topic now in the whole world today. LGBT. Now, why I say that? You see, LGBT, they are people in America. That's why some are so crazy that they even allow a 12-year-old child to decide for themselves whether they are a boy or a girl based on what they think. So you have cases where in US, you have a 12-year-old boy who think that he is a girl. He's got a penis and he says he's a girl. He feels like a girl. So he go to the clinic and get hormone injection to gradually develop the female features. And of course, the parent object. And do you know that there are court cases where the parent lost the case? Now, what happened there? Do you call that vulnerable? Yes. But based on what definition? And whose definition? The definition based on feeling and the people, the LGBT philosophy of human, what a human is, in denial of your physical evidence that you are a male. And you want to believe your definition of yourself as a human, whether you are male or female, based on feeling. So in other words, feeling is more real. Now this is a mindset. Because feeling is a result of your mindset. Of course, partly also because of biological. But is biological a definition? The hormone make you feel like that? Does that can a hormone define you? Or is your value more than that? I don't know, Yvonne. I know you will have more questions, but I hope I'm pointing you in the right direction about answering your thought here. I mean, very good thought, actually, by the way, Yvonne. That's a very good thought, very deep thought. Because it's very subjective. That's why in YMAT, we talked about universal principle. We cannot talk about our feeling. Our feeling is subjected to influence. Universal principle is outside of being subjected to influence. Universal principle must be the anchor to which we hold on to define, because universal principle don't change. Our feelings change. People's opinion change. So if we use our definition of human, ourselves as a human, who am I, what am I, based on other people's opinion or based on my own feeling, which is subjected to environmental or peer pressure, or even our biological, chemical, even about what we eat sometimes, if we don't eat, or depression, which is very subjective, we fluctuate up and down, then how can we be secure enough to be vulnerable? Because then we are so insecure. Can you imagine? Think for instance, if you are in a boat, in a sampan, in the sea, and the sea is very rough, goyang you up and down, do you feel secure? So what do? You go on the defensive, right? And it's this natural human survival response. So you cannot. But if we are able to find a rock in the sea, and we climb up onto the rock in the sea and not on the sampan under the mercy of the wave, now we climb onto the rock and the rock is no longer subjected to the mercy of the wave, then no, I can stand. I can feel secure. I feel safe. Then can I confront the vulnerability of the situation of the wave? Yes. Now I can handle it. Why? Because I'm standing on solid ground. I'm standing on firm ground. I'm standing on something that is fixed. That's why I need to talk about that, because this is the root. If I'm not standing on firm ground, I don't think a firm ground of our mindset of how we define ourselves as a human, as who we are and what we are, I don't think we are able to be vulnerable. And if we go and study vulnerability and we are not firm, I mean we are not secure, or we have not, how to say, come to a secure understanding of who I am and what I am, then I think we will end up resorting to fake vulnerability. Oh, now I have to be vulnerable, because if I'm not vulnerable, I will not be able to lead other people. Other people don't see my vulnerability, then other people will not be open to following me. Then what do I resort to? Fake vulnerability. You see this in mistakes. The same thing goes to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Simply meaning this. You see, in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, at the end of the day, principle-centered mindset. In other words, we need to develop, keep changing and improving our mindset on the correct mindset. Mindset about what the world is about, right? But a lot of people are practicing the 7 habits outside only, without a change of their mindset. That means they're changing their skill and behavior, but not changing their mindset. Mindset is basically trying to create a framework of correct understanding of life and of ourselves and of the world, so that we can see through the mindset correctly and interpret what's going on in the world correctly, and then make the right decision about how we handle the world, the problems in the world. Same thing. In this case, vulnerability is an expression. But the root cause of the vulnerability is actually our mindset about ourselves. Okay, I talked too much already. I'm not getting any birdie writing anything. Don't know what's happening. I need to get some input feedback. Don't know what's happening. Too many deep questions. Okay. But can you understand overview? Can you understand what I'm driving at? I can get it. Okay, good, good. Now, of course, like I always say before in the past, the more you know correctly, the more questions you will have. What I'm trying to tell you is supposed to, you need to go aha, and then ayah. Aha as in, oh, I can see what you're saying, but ayah, now I got more questions. All aha will lead to more ayah. But you will notice that once you are able to grasp what I'm trying to say, then the whole chapter makes sense. Okay, yeah, more yeah. But once, what I'm trying to say is that I find that once you are able to grab and the correct mindset, then everything that Brené Brown talks about fit in one, it fits in. That's all I can say. Which is what we need to do to learn about growing our correct mindset. Every time we grow a correct mindset and we begin to view through the mindset on what is happening, everything can fit. I know what he's saying. I know why like that. I know why like that. I know why like this. I know why is. And all I can say, that's why I pull back, because this is not discussed in the chapter. That's why I after reading this chapter 2 times, I go backwards the mindset about who I am and what I am. That's why I want to drive at that. That's what I mean by the root cause. The root cause of your ability to be vulnerable and not be fake vulnerable is going to be about a correct mindset about yourself and about people, about human. Because my mindset still that limit. Yeah. We all are. Hope more aha than aya. Okay. At least you got some aha today, right? That's why this book still require in YMAC the first two lessons, the attitude as we think so we are, as well as the 7 habits of highly effective people. Recognizing during the introduction of the 7 habits of highly effective people that says that the mindset, the principle-centered mindset is a fundamental, foundational root cause of all your behavior, which leads to your result.
Just sharing lah. Actually, what just now you said is actually got hit you lah. It's like how to like just now you say the first two the 7 habit and the mindset thing that one play actually, I don't know lah. This is what happened recently lah. Just sharing and then they give me some feedback lah. It's like these attitude things we need to be very firm and clear on our mind in order for us to voice out lor. If that mindset all not clear and firm it's very hard to voice out one. Like recently, I start to voice out and confront fear of my worker lor. You know, that last time I'm not there to do that one. Because the mindset and the thing is not firm. But then once you firm, then you will be more confident to voice out.
You're right.
Then after voice out, yeah lor, you depend lor, you will get a good result or bad result lor. But it doesn't matter lor. But you will still got the confidence to voice out lor. This is what I feel lah from this chapter and also what you guys share just now lah.
Good sharing. Yes, true, very true, super true.
But then most of don't know lah. I think my mindset is not very chim yet. So the person that forced me to voice out based on my not so chim mindset simply means that that person is also the mindset is also not very high lor. You get me lah. So I think yeah, actually for my side the result is not very good lah because most of them cannot accept lah. And then but it's okay lah. That's why I say the result is not the point. But then overallly it's actually solving lor. It's like okay, I know which route which how to say which dirt that I need to throw away in order to get a better one lor. I don't know lah. This is what happened lah.
What you are describing to me, Chen Wei, is what I've been always saying about right versus right. Realize that when you do what is right, this is what you are saying about you begin to have a mindset that you know you need to do. That's what it means by right. That means deep down you know that it's the right thing to do. Right? Even when your result is not favorable. We all like a favorable result. This is what it means by like. Do what I like. Do so that I can get what I like. which is a favorable result, versus do what is right. That means deep down, you begin to see clearer, and you begin to, the more you see clearer, means what? That means your mindset, the framework of your mindset become more solid. And when your framework of your mindset become more solid, then you know that you need to act on it. Then you act on what is right in your thoughts. In your thoughts, in your mindset, in the way you frame up your mindset, you know that's the right thing. And you act it regardless of what is the result. Do what I like is very often focused on the outcome, because we all like good outcome. Do what is right is always based on principle. That is the root mindset. So I'm now trying to connect what I always say about right versus right, and what you just shared about the mindset and the struggle you have to eventually do based on your mindset. This is correct. And the other thing I want to just share with you basically is this. You having the confidence about a right mindset versus practice, which one comes first? Do first, or must be sure first of your mindset first?
Last time I will always make sure first. But what I make sure is not about my mindset. I always try to make sure what kind of the result that I will get like try to get good result versus negative result. I will try to compare good result more and bad result lower percentage. I will use that way only I go. But then after I read through this, then I ignore the result. So it's like taking action first, as long as I know it's the right thing. Now I become like this.
Actually, it's you have to do both now, and eventually evaluate. What you are saying now is very close, very good, because now you see, is vulnerability a tool for achieving result, or is vulnerability an expression of who you are? Let me ask you. Is vulnerability a tool for achieving results, or is vulnerability an authentic expression of what it means to be human? Which one is it?
Now is authentic lah. Should be authentic for me lah. I don't know lah. I'm thinking this way lah after read through lah.
What about other people? What do you think this book is driving at? What kind of vulnerability is driving at? As an authentic expression of who you are as a human, or as a tool for becoming more effective as a leader? So which one comes first then, if both? How do you know then that how do you prevent yourself from ending up fake vulnerability? Okay, I hope you all can get the answer. I hope you all can understand what I'm saying. Authentic must come first. And how can you be authentic if you do not know who you are and what you are? I think this is also found in the book. I remember reading somewhere in the book. Authentic is about knowing and understanding and accepting who you are. You cannot be authentic if you don't know what it is, what you are and who you are. How can you be authentic if you don't even know who you are? Then you are authentically what?
Blindly.
You understand what I'm saying? Can there be authenticity if you don't even know who you are, what you are? So that person become authentically what? Authenticity is being true to yourself. But how can you be true to yourself if you don't even know who you are as yourself or what you are? Then you have to ask the question, where do you come from? What are you all about? Obviously then, meaning MOL, we all gone through. Evolution versus creation. Those of you who didn't know, last time under MOL class, many, how long? I think 1-2 years ago already, early part in our MOL. We talked about evolution versus creation. Very briefly only, but yeah.
So actually, you already bring us to very, very deep already, you know.
Very deep.
No, I mean, you bring us to very deep already lah.
Mm.
But then it's like, no lah, it's good thing lah to bring us to deep lah. But then I just share lah for myself lah. It's like, yes, it's very important lah, the MOL and everything to find out, because it really play a important role for us to, when we make decision, everything very crucial . Then actually also have to fit in the situation also how to apply that in different kind of situation. Then understand all this, then only can build the courage to actually be vulnerable to be honest not easy
Yep. You are right.
Because
you are right.
I think really want to fit in everything very hard, very, very hard. Not easy for me I don't know because maybe why I feel hard is because maybe my MOL also not 100% very firm yet but then good thing is at least the attitude wise got confident to say more than 60% got confident to firm what kind of attitude is at least for me myself is good and what kind of bad basic so yeah, I think this helpful to actually build out the courage also to be vulnerable. But then not easy really not easy to find out yourself, aware of yourself. Yeah.
You realize that you are already expressing vulnerability? This is what's happening. That's why vulnerability doesn't have to have all the answers. Vulnerability is to ask the right question. Requires you to ask the right question to seek the truth about yourself, to try to seek. The vulnerability doesn't need to have all the answers. Remember, vulnerability is about being aware, seeking to understand, being aware and trying to accept. And seeking to accept. Not having the answers, no. That's why for people who dare to go deep, I would say, I think that's the word, to go deep, because you are seeking the truth. That's why one thing I like about what God says, Jesus say, seek and you shall find. Seeking is vulnerable. Seeking is the admission that you are lost. That's why you're seeking. You're lost something, or you're lost yourself, or whatever. And that's vulnerable. That's acknowledging that, hey, I'm not strong. I'm in trouble. I'm opening myself to be vulnerable, to admit that I'm in trouble. That's why I am trying to find. What? That vulnerability. So yeah, for all of you, your effort right now is expressing vulnerability, because suddenly you feel like a bit lost, right? But then only when you are lost, you are found. You can find. Yeah. Okay. I know I'm serving very deep. I'm serving very deep. and if you are struggling with the effort, very good. Actually, that is you are practicing vulnerability. At least you are practicing vulnerability to yourself. In being able to acknowledge, in being able to acknowledge to yourself or to the group that, hey, I'm struggling. I still need a lot of room for understanding. Yeah, you are, because you are now acknowledging. You are acknowledging